Hello and welcome. This is episode 27 of Three Losers in a Church. Wild. It's titled Sad Boi with an I, Hours. Sad Boi Hours.
Yeet.
And so this episode, we're going to talk about how we choose to demonize certain emotions. And so Chris wrote this line that says, God displays anger, jealousy, sadness, etc. Does this justify us having these emotions? So that's kind of our main idea there. And then we're going to kind of go from there and talk about how, these emotions are displayed in different ways, but also how we a lot of times think negatively of them, even knowing that they are all throughout Scripture. So yeah.
There's the extreme, which is God displays these emotions, but we're not God, you know. But that always feels like such a cop-out answer. But I don't know, maybe it's not at all also.
What was the inspiration for this question? Beyond just seeing... Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't have a particular event in mind or anything.
No, me neither. A lot of this comes from so continually in my life think about how I just want to remove stress and be stress-free and I don't know, have everything free flowing and everything's going great and all these other things. And I go well, but that's there for a reason, and there's implications of stress being there, and there's a beautiful side to stress. And so then this kind of led me down this thought of we think of anger as really bad, but during certain cases we go oh no, but that's justifiable anger, and that's good. It's good to be riled up and angry about that. It's good. So just kind of how there's these this duality to these emotions, and we a lot of time demonize them and only focus on we should be happy and stress free and just living life. But in reality, that's not the way it is, nor the way it really should be. So that was kind of our inspiration for that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, excuse me. I mean, we're instructed to be angry about and hate sin. So that feels justified. But then I guess, how do we handle the anger? I feel a lot of it is, how do we handle these emotions? Anger is the most obvious one that I can think of. But yeah, then being sad, should Christians be sad?
They are sad to begin with.
That's part of our nature, right? We're sad.
Christians are so angsty.
Super angsty.
It's true.
It's this flip side of someone at one point just said but we should just be out here vibing. I was I don't know how I feel about that, but I kind of agree though. There's a reason and a purpose to just be out there vibing, but also there's other motives and ideas and passions behind those things.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to think of these things as one-sided, right? Because joy can also be negative. You could be, overcome with joy and make some bad decisions, or there's negative repercussions that come with, those things.
Or be happy about something bad.
Right. Interesting. That's probably a better example. And how they both have this kind of duality to them. Yeah. Anger, as you said, is probably the easiest to come up with examples for, because the idea of justifiable anger.
Yeah. And I feel I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I feel a lot of people think there's anger and love are mutually exclusive. But at the same time, God is love and displays a lot of anger that we read, God's wrath.
Yeah.
And then because you immediately think of human love and anger, and you think of abuse. I don't know. Oh, he only hits me because he loves me, which is horrible. But that's the mantra of a lot of abusive relationships, It's well, anger has its place. It's you can be angry with one another, but it's how you handle it, I guess. Because if you're never angry, then I don't know. To me, that just feels you're missing a key part of your emotional spectrum. Not that you should be dwelling on your anger or living in anger, but
there's a side of passion to anger in a lot of ways. I think about things that I really care about, and there's moments where you're right, you can feel it festering. But those are just things I care a lot about and want to put the effort into. And when something doesn't go that way, I of course then respond in frustration.
Is frustration an emotion, or is it a side effect of anger or some other emotion?
Google that because I don't know.
I don't think that's an answer to that. I don't. I I don't know, but like, would you call stress like being stressed? Is that an emotion, or is that a state of being?
Right. Oh, I don't know.
Like, so am I frustrated? Is that an emotion, or is that a state of being? I guess because it's a verb, you think that.
Mm.
But that's an adjective. That's okay. Interesting.
What word?
I was talking about frustration, if that was an emotion.
Frustration is an emotion that occurs in situations where a person is blocked from reaching a desired outcome. However, when it results in anger, irritability, stress, resentment, depression, or a spiral downward where we have a feeling of resignation or giving up, frustration can be destructive.
I'm glad they elaborated on that. I'm like, this is why frustration's bad.
This is from psychologistanywhereanytime.com.
I really trust them.
Yeah, Psychology Today. There's probably another emotion present if you are frustrated. This one seems a bit more credible.
Yeah, so this is saying one article said yes, the other one said no, but it was a very not in-depth search of that question. But of course, like, what is an emotion really debates. But you could argue, like, you only really have, like, love is the only emotion, because everything stems from either, like, loving something or not loving something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a weird argument, but, like, you could probably make it.
I've never heard that. Oh, yeah.
I'm not making it up.
No, it
I'm
makes
just
sense.
saying.
Yeah, no.
I'm sure someone else has argued it, but so, like, it's really hard to define, right? And, like, I think that's part of the mystery and beauty, right? It's like our emotional spectrum, as you said, is like there's a lot. There's a lot going, and there's always like multiple pieces and like things mixing into that. And I think that like adds to the level of like it being stressful and like very easy to demonize these things because there's such a mess going on a lot of the time.
I think it's also demonized because we only see they demonize things in this cases of the cases of the extremes, right? So you see that and then people focus on that. But I think it's okay to feel all those emotions. I think it's okay to feel. I think they're all right as long as you don't dwell too long in them. That's my argument.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because like an example I think of is like, okay, the anger that comes when you murder somebody. I think that's bad.
You've murdered someone?
A+ right there. That's philosophy 101. Like the anger that comes from, well, I guess probably before you murder somebody, but like involved in murdering somebody, right? There's some anger there. Like that is an extreme that is like should be demonized. But then I think it just like bleeds into other things. Like we're like trying to draw the line of like good emotions and bad emotions. But in reality, it's like very messy and not precise.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like, yeah, like if you take a less extreme example of like, oh, my friend hurt me, like why wouldn't you be angry,
right,
and or sad? And like you can still forgive them, which is the gospel to forgive. But like you could still forgive them, but feel that sense of anger because it doesn't justify like what you said. It doesn't justify what they did, or like make it okay or make it go away.
Yeah. But then there's this idea of like always being okay.
What does that mean?
I'm not. So the point I'm making there is like we always seek to. This goes back to that stress point I started with, like how to be like the best we can, like in the best mood and least stressed, and like only positive. When it's like reality, that's not possible. Also, like that's not beneficial. And also like we're always striving to be more good than bad in our emotions, right? Like we want to be happier more times than we're angry, which I mean I think is healthy in a lot of ways, but also like we're called to get upset and frustrated about things. And like we shouldn't just be like, oh, we're slowly killing the planet. That's great.
Right?
Yay.
So there's like the balance there, and yet we like always seek to like, oh, well, like clearly I'm angry about this. Like, let me figure out why I'm angry so I can solve it. Then I can not be angry. Which is very interesting.
Yeah. Because sometimes it might be healthy to like take some time to like, mourn the loss of the environment as we know it, or like, think about all the tragedies in the world, or like hunger or whatever. It's like sometimes, it probably does you some good to like set aside time to be sad about it, not to be a sad sack and like not recover from that.
See, that's the problem. Like it's such a dangerous spiral if you become the sad sack. Like, I was thinking about I recent in the past was it 2018? A friend of mine that I grew up with, he passed away, and that hit me really hard because I hadn't seen him in years, and now he's gone. And I remember just being in a state like I was sad, but then like it was like a sad chain reaction. Like I was sad about his passing, but then it just kept going further and further downwards. I was like, oh, I'm sad about his passing. Then I was sad about this, which then made me sad about that, and then I was just in like this tornado of sadness. And it was such a dark place because then ultimately I came to the conclusion, oh, I'm just sad about like my life and my existence.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. So is it like a chain reaction necessarily, you think?
Not, I mean, because like what you were talking about, like being angry at like things in the world, like the tragedies and everything. Like that's what I mean by like dwelling too long in such emotions. Like sometimes they start relating to things that don't need to be related out at all. Like for instance, like anger. I recently was super angry at this kid, and I straight up told people that I wanted to hurt him. It's not a very uncommon thing in my school because everyone hates this kid. But you never feel good when you like dwell in that anger. Like I was so angry, my hands were shaking. Like I almost like I couldn't like. I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's a healthy place to dwell too long in such a place. But I think you should understand why you're feeling it. Understand where it comes. I don't know. I think it's the danger of like letting it bleed into other topics that aren't related to what you're feeling about.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense.
But it's interesting on the flip side of that. Like, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
It's very easy to be angry about something and have it be shown in a different way. Every single day in my life, I'm frustrated about something else, and then I like snap at somebody for like doing something stupid.
Yeah.
Right? Like, clearly, I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at something else, but it's just coming out in that way.
And then it just continues. Yes.
But if you look at happiness,
Sure.
let's say I'm really excited about something, right? And something is kind of bumming me out. But that happiness bleeds into that thing that's kind of bumming me out. And like, I'm like, okay, I don't need to worry about it. That's great.
But that's not good.
It's interesting, right? Because it's not good. But in our head, we go like, oh, but like, it's happiness. It's fine, right?
I think that's just called being stupid. I should. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it is we're terrible at navigating emotions. Like, we're so bad at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like
agree.
there is this duality to it, where a lot of the times when it's the positive thing that's really like shining,
we let it override.
We let it like kind of go and we don't worry about it. But yet like there's this big focus on like how like not be dragged down by something happening to you or like the tragedies and stuff.
They say focus on something better,
right?
Or like the something that makes you happy. Like go to your happy place,
right?
Which
and
I think
like,
is so dumb.
There's nothing more nauseating than those people that are just like no bad vibes, man, and like they always act like they're in this just place of euphoria, and deep down that like that's a load of crap.
Yeah, that's lies they're telling themselves, which is valid, but yeah, I don't know. It is very interesting.
I think the jealousy one is really fascinating because I don't know. Maybe I should probably check to see if the Hebrew or Greek or whatever is a different word than like what we have for jealousy. But I don't know if it is. But like just the idea that a perfect God can be jealous. Because jealousy is almost inherently negative when we think about it.
It's very hard to spin positive.
Yeah. But I mean, he's jealous for us because of the sin nature we have. Like, I don't know. It's just the use of the word. I guess it's hard just because of how we use the word. It's hard for me to be like, oh, okay. Yeah.
It's just a giant pool to swim in. Like, I don't really understand. I feel a lot, but I can't understand. I can't explain sometimes.
And I'm like someone who is really bad at processing emotions, and like emotions for me are terrible in general.
Yeah.
And like I don't think any more so than anybody else, but like I'm just so like yeah.
I just feel like an idiot because like when I'm processing, like most of it results in. So the trajectory of me processing my emotion is this: I go, "This is what I'm feeling." this makes me feel a certain way. This is what it makes me think. And now, for me, from there, it's like, okay, why does it make me think this? Is what I'm thinking necessarily bad?
Mm.
Should I dwell in this any longer? And there have been cases where I dwelled in it way too long.
Yeah.
And it lasted like months.
I don't like. I think it's hard to find an example in life where we're like, we didn't dwell in that long enough, right? Because like maybe it didn't like manifest in the way we think it was, but clearly like there was repercussions in other ways. I do think that there's a danger of not dwelling over things, but like maybe like finding examples of that because we don't like it's like harder to do and we like forget about them. But like, yeah, I think it's like it's easier to point to examples. Of like dwelling in things for too long. I do think like we don't dwell in things long enough. And I think it happens, but I think it's harder to like pinpoint those.
Yeah, because you just didn't dwell long enough on it.
Didn't
Yeah,
dwell.
right. The moment's
Really
gone.
didn't have a big enough implication.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Because, I mean, you could be like, I wish I grieved longer for my dead friend. But it's like, are you wishing that you were sadder for a longer period of time? Unless it like messed you up psychologically that you didn't take the time to like cope with it. I don't know.
And I think, what was it? Hadam brought up a good point. She was like, we as creatures are very forgetful. Like we try to move on from things. Like we move on from things, then we forget what that pain was like. I didn't know they could fly.
Yep.
Anywho,
stink bugs can fly. Public service announcement. If that was not a known fact.
Never mind. Yeah, but like, I'm thinking about the example I tried using earlier. I remember physically where I was. I remember physically sitting in like Pastor Lily's office, staring out the window because I was like, I don't know what to think. But the aftermath, I don't remember much about it. Maybe I blocked it out. Maybe I didn't dwell on it long enough. Maybe I dwelled on it too long, but it's very high emotion for me. And that's all I remember.
Yeah. And we forget what that feeling is like. Is that the point you were making?
I think so.
Like, about being forgetful?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to like forget how you feel about things. It's like easy to know like, oh, I'm sad. Maybe I'm a sociopath, but I like see,
fifth episode in a row we talked about that.
Yeah, it's like it's easy to go like, I know I should be sad. Insert sad. But it's like more. It's just like I'm just like I feel empty, right?
Yes.
Which is like a sadness in some ways, but like yeah, it's like I'm like oh like I just feel average. You go like. Yeah, I don't know.
When you're like in the room, like in like a very like I guess like emotional setting, and you're the only one in the room who's not crying. You're just like something wrong with me. I feel like you touched on something similar. Like,
yeah,
you're like,
I mean, as is the story.
You want to feel something,
right.
but you don't. Whereas my story is I'm feeling too much of something and I don't want to.
Right.
Which is like a flashback to last episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is funny because I wrote that. Throwback to episode 26. So there you go. We did it naturally.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know, this whole idea of like painting emotions negatively and being like, I don't want to feel those, be gone, right?
But there's also the extreme where people hold on to certain emotions too tightly, which then causes controversy and like drama. Because what was it? One of the things that Chris wrote about was the idea of like disliked emotions to enter into faith. I feel like anger is the easiest one to twist, because when people are angry, they want to be right. And when they want to be right, they try to force their agenda upon other people. But in doing so, the execution or the presentation is so harsh, which then becomes just a landslide of just discomfort and danger. Like I think back to undergrad a lot. I feel like that's where people will be openly the angriest because they just like complaining about every little thing.
That was me.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm less angry now.
That's good.
Maybe I'll be like super zen when I'm not an undergrad.
I hope so.
No, that's not possible.
I can dream of a day.
I'm going to be a mess forever. I think the larger point we're trying to make here is that like these things are from God and we are created in that way. We're image bearers in that way. and like they're tools to be used for the good. Like, and I don't like using the word good there because like it's kind of confusing, but like I think a large piece of it goes like empathy and sympathy. Without those, like to sharing the gospel would be impossible, right? And like knowing like, yeah, I know what you go through. Like I know what that feels like. I'm vibing with you right now. This is like what it be.
No, stop that.
Like, and then like, then you can like, there's like a level of like relationship that is like super powerful there. And it's like, we through that, you know, build relationships and like share the gospel that way. So like these are negative emotions. These negative emotions are like tools and they're used for positive things. Right. And realizing that is like this is dumb. I wish I didn't have to feel this way, but like also like, oh yeah, there is some beauty and some power in those.
Yes.
This has been episode 27. Thanks for listening, guys. This episode was titled Sad Boi Hours. I'm going to get it right this time. Make sure to check us out on our website, losersinachurch.com. You can see all of our streaming platforms, our Instagram, and all that good stuff. Yeah, thanks for listening. We out.
We out.
Have a good one.